not homegrown. You hear a ton of complaints about we got to get off foreign oil. We don't have to get off foreign oil. We have to get off oil, period. But never mind. We hear about got to get off foreign oil and be energy independent. So how much foreign oil do we import? About 45% of what we use. How much uranium do we import? 90%, 94% of the uranium that goes into nuclear power plants is imported from Aboriginal lands in Australia and from Tuareg lands in Niger and from First Nations lands in Canada. Those are the people that had to mine this stuff and get sick and not get rich and not get help to fire up our nuclear plants, which should be called uranium plants because that's the fuel. We talk about solar, we talk about oil, we talk about coal. Why do we talk about nuclear? That doesn't mean anything. It's uranium. These are uranium electricity. And that's mined mostly by indigenous people on dry, arid lands in poverty. They took the risk. We had to turn it around. Atoms for peace. So now we've got nuclear plants. Indian Point has 2 reactors which are supposed to shut down in 2014 and 2016 when their 40-year licenses expire. I urge you to support, if you live in this area, support Shut Indian Point now. Help them keep these plants shut. Support your governor who wants the things shut down. Support your attorney general who wants them shut down. They've got the same fight in Vermont. And guess what? Vermont is the same reactor as the Fukushima reactors, a GE Mark I boiling water reactor. And the state wanted to shut them, the reactor in Vermont, when its license expired this March. But guess what happened? Guess what happened? The federal government said, oh no, we preempt you, Vermont. You're going to keep going. And the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which is the lapdog, lousy agency that is supposed to be the wall between us and the nuclear industry, is going to just do its thing, right? It doesn't care about safety. It only cares about saving money. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission gave the Vermont Yankee plant a 20-year license extension, the same design as Fukushima, 10 days into that accident. So we were watching the explosions and the leaks and the contamination and the dying cows and the fleeing people while our government gave a license for 20 years to the same reactor up the road in Vermont against the wishes of the people and the government of Vermont. The industry, the nuclear industry, is a rampant rogue outlaw. It will operate no matter what we say. We don't have a political system because we do not have proportional representation like Germany, so we can't elect people to support our views. So our job is to unelect those who don't, right? What we can do, we can support Shut Indian Point. You can sign on with our organization to learn more. We've got to put people in office who represent us, and we don't have them, and we have nowhere to go. When I go to vote, I can vote for a Democrat or a Republican. Those are the only 2 people, and in my state, the only people that are going to get in are Democrats. So in Maryland, I can vote for a Democrat or not vote. That's it. But if I vote for a Green Party person, they're going nowhere. Nowhere. So it's pointless. So we don't have a political system that allows us to elect them. So what we've got to make sure is that when people get in office, they represent us, and they've got to hear from you in huge numbers. You've got to contact your elected officials, and you've got to tell them that you want the reactor in your community shut down because it's too dangerous. We don't need the electricity. We can make it with solar, we can make it with wind, and we can make it with energy efficiency. And I'll wrap up now, but in Indian Point, there's a study done on Indian Point. If those 2 reactors shut in 2015, you can do nothing at all for 5 years, and you've got plenty of surplus electricity. But of course, we don't need to do nothing at all for 5 years. In those 5 years, or even starting now, we can employ energy efficiency, we can employ renewable energies, and we can replace those 2,000 megawatts, no problem. No problem. We don't need those reactors. You don't need to be sitting here taking the risk and worrying about what could happen and whether you have to evacuate your kids or whether your food's going to be contaminated. We don't need to lose New York. You know, it's unimaginable. But we will if we don't do anything about it. So I encourage you, please, please, join up. You know, this is not just an anti-movement. This is a pro-movement. This is the real pro-life movement. This is the movement for clean, green energy, energy efficiency, less waste, more conservation, and no nukes. Thanks. We have time